This video cannot be monetized and is being shadow banned by YouTube. Please share it out. If you want anyone to know what the truth behind what's happening in South Africa is, please share this video.
The 7 people who were killed recently on a farm, the bodies of 6 women and a 17-year-old boy were found on the Lismore farm on Friday.
Yes, it's true.
2 women were actually raped by, allegedly, these 2 men. And after the raping, they went on a shooting spree to kill all those 7 people, and some of them were actually stabbed. So it appears as if they wanted to make sure that all of them die.
White South African farmers are being targeted.
Liesel Wessels is recovering in hospital after she was tortured with boiling water and stabbed until she lost consciousness on Monday evening. Her husband, Tool, did not survive the attack.
Verskeie steekwonde en sy is vreeslik gebrand met kookwater, haar rug, haar hande. Ja, ek ken nie al die details nie, maar ek weet mama's deur hel om hulp te gekry het en dankie tog daar was mense wat haar kon help en haar kon hospitaal toe vat.
They're being targeted for brutal murders, torture.
Kill the poor, the farmer. I repeat, kill the poor, the farmer.
This is the second farm attack in Bonnievale in the past 6 months. In December, the elderly Steins were murdered in their beds on their farm in the Riviersonderend Mountains.
They are being wiped out.
We were attacked. I was shot through the back, and my wife, unfortunately, was killed.
I repeat, kill the poor, the farmer.
Al wat sy kon uitkry is oupa, ouma vermoor. En ek het in mekaar ingesak, ek het gehuil en ek het nie geweet wat om te doen nie.
Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
My mother was lying face down, hands tied behind her back. My dad had a big gaping hole like the size of a golf ball in his throat. There was a pool of blood here all over. When I touched him, he was cold already. My mother was lying face down, but she was still hot. But I couldn't feel a pulse. Their throats were slit. They were tortured here. I found an iron cord around my mother's neck. She was obviously, they tortured her. And
the savagery of these crimes cannot be explained, and I don't want to talk about it because it upsets me.
So fast, Kichi, Etatin, Kichi, Kichima, Sipron Konto, Alliance, shoot to kill, Yamaza, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer, brr, pa.
I want to talk about what happened in the Oval Office the other day, the so-called ambush that President Trump pulled on President Cyril Ramaphosa. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you what was right, what was wrong about that meeting, and hopefully put an end to this debate as to whether there is a genocide going on in South Africa or not. So I've got something I want to read to you guys here. Before we do, though, let's lighten the mood with a data broker rap. Deep within the corporate offices of a data broker, something is happening behind closed doors. We're scummier than earthworms, stealing all your deets. We sell it to whomever, spy stalkers and sus peeps. They pay us for your info to bother you in heaps. You cannot escape us with data broken bros. When you browse the internet, when you click on accept a cookie, when you sign up for some or other service in a shop, your data gets sold to data brokers, and data brokers then sell it to other people. But there is a way to get your name and personal information removed off of these lists, and that is Incogni. You see, they do the fancy footwork and all the hard work for you. There are thousands of data brokers out there. And for you to go after each one and legally request for your name to be removed would be incredibly time-consuming and costly. But Incogni does it for you. You give them permission, and then they will, on your behalf, send legal letters to all of these different data brokers to get your personal data removed. If you're tired of junk mail and you want to get rid of all these targeted adverts and take your privacy back, go to incogni.com/Winston and use the code Winston to get 60% off. Protect your privacy today. Go to incogni.com/Winston and use the code Winston to take your personal data off the market. And now back to the show. I have here the 9 steps of genocide with context to the South African situation. Now bear with me. I'll get to the Oval Office stuff. I'll get to all of that in a minute, but I wanted to quickly go through this. Okay. The 9 stages of genocide with examples from the current South African context. Classification. People are divided into groups based on race, culture, or background. Example, legislation like BBEE officially classifies citizens according to race for access to jobs, contracts, and services. What the hell is BBEE? I know there's Black Economic Empowerment, but let's see what this is. BBEE is Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment. All right, okay, now we got that out the way. Number 2, symbolization. Groups are labeled, identified, or treated differently based on these classifications. Example, terms like previously advantaged are used to justify exclusion. Race is recorded and tracked in all economic policy. This is true. In South Africa, people say white people are previously advantaged and black people are previously disadvantaged. This is a label that's given to people. Doesn't that mean that they're currently not advantaged and currently not disadvantaged? Wouldn't that track?
Made great strides in an effort to improve the lives of previously disadvantaged people, but still there's room for improvement.
Over 50% of the land distributed to the previously disadvantaged has failed to render tangible benefits.
A fair representation of previously disadvantaged South Africans entering the field of accounting.
Especially those from previously disadvantaged communities.
Tell you what, that's one terminology I thought I'd never have to hear again.
For previously disadvantaged women.
Previously disadvantaged children.
Previously disadvantaged farmers.
Number 3, discrimination. A dominant group uses laws, policies, and institutions to deny rights and access to others. Example, white candidates are excluded from job opportunities, university placement, and public sector roles under official quota systems. This is true. If you're white, in fact, you know what, there are 140-odd race-based laws currently in South Africa that discriminate against white people. I'm not joking. Look it up. I've actually experienced it myself when applying for work in South Africa. You know, less qualified people would get the job because, you know, color of their skin. It's part of the BBBEE thing. All right, dehumanization. The targeted group is blamed for society's problems or depicted as less human. For example, public figures claim whites stole the land or are inherently privileged. Afrikaners are blamed for apartheid decades after its fall. There's a lot to say about this, guys. You know, I get kind of tired of this whole thing. White people being blamed for stealing the land. You know, I've never owned land in South Africa. I'm South African. I was born in South Africa. How the hell do I steal land based on the color of my skin if I've never owned land? I couldn't afford to buy land when I was living in South Africa growing up Are you kidding me? But you see, this is the problem when you've got such a big stigma in society and people are blaming a certain skin color for things. They'll look at me and immediately they will label me as a land thief, somebody who stole the land from someone's ancestor or something. I've never owned land. It's ridiculous. And of course, this leads to a lot of problems because somebody might try and murder me out of spite or something along those lines. Yeah, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I could really get into this, but let's move on. Okay, next. Organization. The state or allied groups organize mechanisms to enforce discrimination. For example, President Ramaphosa calls on the ANC Youth League to become militant.
I call upon you to return to the militancy of the ANC Youth League of the 1944 era, to go back to the militancy of the ANC Youth League of the 80s and the 90s. We don't want to see an ANC Youth League that is asleep during a revolution. You are the revolution.
Radical legislation is implemented through state organs. You know, this is actually the truth. President Ramaphosa did call for the ANC Youth League to become militant like in the past. Great. Like when I was growing up where they were blowing up shopping malls, killing little children, blowing up churches, train stations. Awesome. Wonderful. What a great thing to call for. Next one. Polarization. Extremes in speech and legal decisions deepen social divides. Moderates are silenced. For example, courts allow the Kill the Boer song while silencing white criticism. Oranje and Clairefontaine are attacked in Parliament as threats to democracy. You know, this whole Kill the Boer thing being defended by the South African court as some kind of a folk song, you know, struggle song, is absolute nonsense. It's not a folk song. There's no folk song in the world that calls for the eradication and the killing and the shooting of a minority. And if there is, it needs to be wiped out. You might wonder why this song has been allowed to proliferate, especially in South Africa where hate speech is taken very seriously. If a white person utters a slur, a racial slur, they will go to jail. No joke. But you can sing Kill the Boer, kill the farmer. And you know what? A Boer is one thing, and one thing only. A Boer is an Afrikaans farmer, a white Afrikaans farmer, because that is the Afrikaans word for farmer. It's nothing else. It cannot be misconstrued for anything else. It means kill the white farmer. Now, the reason why this song is allowed to continue and the courts have allowed it is, well, because, you know, the president of South Africa and that little dipshit who goes around singing this all the time in his party and he whips everyone up into a frenzy. By the way, not a fringe party. That's a big party.
Who says this is just a small party? It's so insignificant. He says that's not a small party. This party can gather 100,000 people under one roof in a stadium where I can't even see a single empty seat. You can't say that is a small party. We are not a small party. That's why imperialism is very scared of us.
They have a massive grassroots movement, and they can whip up thousands of people at any given moment. Hundreds of thousands of people to go and do whatever they ask, including kill people. Anyway, Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa himself, wants Malema to be back in the ANC.
And of course, the EFF members, we would want to welcome them back. And in fact, I would be able to say we would love to have Julius Malema back in the ANC. He is still ANC, down deep in his heart.
He is a friend of Malema, that little dipshit who runs around singing. They are buddy-buddy. So, of course, when the president loves this guy who's going out singing Kill the Boer, kill the farmer, why would he not help him when it comes to defending his right to say these awful things? It's my theory anyway. What else we got here? Preparation. Victims are identified, separated, and isolated socially or economically. For example, white communities are demonized. Racial quotas force exclusion. White farmers are portrayed as illegitimate landholders. You know, this is the truth. It's a very interesting thing. When it comes to the landowners, when the Dutch arrived in South Africa, you know, in the sort of early 1600s, whenever it was. The Bantu people, the Xhosas, the Zulus, you know, the kind of shoot the bush, shoot the farmer, kill those people, they weren't there. They came down later. So none of that land belonged to them anyway. All the land that was purchased legitimately. Well, I say legitimately, as legitimate as it can be, you know, by the colonizers. You've got all the signatures of the tribe leadership and all that, similar to America, you know, back in the day with the native Indians, that type of thing. Here, I'll buy you a piece of land for a blanket or whatever it was. Of course, it's not fair, but there are legitimate deals all written and so on. At the end of the day, the people own the land. And here's the thing. If you were to fly in from Finland or something and you decided you wanted to start farming in South Africa and you bought a piece of land, you bought a farm from a black owner or a white owner, doesn't matter. If you went and bought a farm, but you happen to be white, they'll take your land away from you. They can, because you're white. It's a race-based thing. It's not about historical injustices. Okay, next we've got persecution. Attacks escalate. The group suffers harassment, exclusion, violence, or property seizure. For example, farm attacks are brutal. The state pushes land expropriation without compensation. White business owners are excluded from public funding. This is very true. Now, there's something that needs to be said here. The president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, signed and created a law that allows the government to take property away from white people, white farmers, as long as it's in the public interest, which could be anything. You could make up anything that's a public interest right. But it's not just land. The way it's phrased is they can take property away. That means cars, bank accounts. They could take your watch off your wrist if they wanted to. It's just anything that they deem is in the public interest. And although in the meeting with Trump, the president tried to pretend that, oh, you know, we're not actually going to do anything. This is him himself saying that he wants to take the land away without any payment.
The question of land, the land of our forefathers and our foremothers must return to our people without any fail and without any payment of compensation. And it must happen now.
Finally, extermination and denial. Mass killings begin. The state or society denies or justifies the violence. Example: violence is dismissed, hate speech is defended, international warnings are ignored, conditions are building towards extermination. That's exactly what's happening. The mass killings have begun. If you're a white farmer, an Afrikaans farmer in South Africa, the chances of you being killed are much exponentially higher than an average citizen. The way these farm murders are carried out are disgusting. They're brutal. They are horrific. I know people who've been victims of this, myself personally. And of course, growing up in that environment, you hear about all the horrible things that happen to people in the farms nearby. It's just disgusting. Very often, nothing's even stolen. Just want to kill them. The sophistication of some of these farm murders as well, with the cell phone jammers and what have you, definitely make me believe that there's some government support, or at least something like that going on. Anyway, the violence is dismissed. You heard the president when he went to the Oval Office saying that, oh, we have a problem with criminality. They're just trying to say, oh, South Africa just has rampant crime where people are brutally murdered anyway, so it's not really a targeted thing. Bollocks.
Afrikaner boys, the poppers will dance. The EFF is coming for you, boys. Afrikaner boys, the ANC has made you to think this thing is still Orange Free State. This thing is not Orange Free State. This is Free State. When we take over power, Afrikaner males, you will know your place.
100% it's a targeted thing. And yes, South Africa does have a massive problem with criminality. It is a horrible, crime-ridden country filled with criminals, the ANC included. Got that off my chest. Okay, hate speech is defended. Yes. How is it that anyone is defending the shoot to kill the Boer, shoot the Boer song? How is that that is hate speech. If that's not hate speech, then I don't know what is. Then I think we just need to drop this whole idea of hate speech, because that is the epitome of hate speech. International warnings are ignored. Hopefully this warning from America won't be ignored. And conditions are building towards extermination. And yes, they are. And we've seen it happen in other places. Listen, I feel like one of those guys who's got a PowerPoint presentation and is reading it, which sucks. I feel like a bit of a pillock. So let me just get my actual thoughts out here. I'm going to talk about the White House meeting. Okay, so... wow, that was quite a thing. First of all, I'm very glad it happened. This idea that people are trying to say that it was infactual and President Trump was pushing false narratives and so on is not correct. He did speak the truth. He got a few things wrong, though, and I'd just like to clear them up. The first thing that's glaringly what he got wrong was the whole memorial with the white crosses on the side of the road. Those aren't grave sites. Those crosses do, however, represent a white, or at least the majority of those crosses represent, 90% of them, thereabouts, represent white farmers who were murdered. There is the Wittkruis monument, which I've shown in a previous video, which you can see has got thousands of crosses, each one for a Afrikaans farmer or a family member who was murdered brutally. These are not people that are dying of natural causes. These are murder victims.
Plasmoorde monument has thousands of white crosses that pay tribute to white farmers who were killed during farm attacks. Located on private property, the site can be seen from afar to draw attention to farm attacks. It was founded by the late Lita Cross-Fourie in 2004 in memory of her loved ones who were killed during separate farm attacks.
And so those crosses do represent the deaths of farmers in South Africa. Not graveyards, though. But, I mean, does it really matter? The other thing I think he got wrong is he said people come and kill people and then just take over the land. I mean, in some cases that does happen, because when the farmers are killed, the lands, if they kill the whole family, the land just kind of goes to no one and the state takes it over, or, you know, maybe some of the farm workers take it over. Who knows? I'm not entirely clear on that one, but I feel like that's not correct. Other than that, though, spot on. It needed to be said. The president of South Africa needed to be confronted. And it was kind of a funny situation. He brought a couple of token white guys along, specifically for this meeting. He brought like this billionaire guy who, of course, depends heavily on government support to run all of his enterprises in South Africa. Of course, he's going to, be on the president's side and try to defend him, because all of his money's tied up in that, and all of his deals depend on the ANC allowing them to happen. Of course, he's in the pocket of the ANC. What else is going to happen? Brought a couple of very rich golfers along because he knows President Trump's a golfer, and he thought it would soften the whole thing. And, well, you know what? It didn't work out as well as he'd hoped, because one of the guys actually let slip that his father's friends had been murdered and the farms were being burnt. So, yeah, that didn't really work out too well.
I grew up in an area in South Africa that is a farmland area, Polokwane. Yep. And there is some issues up there, obviously. My dad was a property developer as well as a part-time farmer. And, yeah, some of these buddy farmers got killed. The farm is still going. My brothers run it, but it's a constant battle with farms they're trying to burn the farms down to chase you away. So it is a concern to try and make a living as a farmer. And at the end of the day, without farmers, there's no food on the plate.
At the end of the day, I'm very glad it happened. And I'm appalled at the pushback against those refugees that came over. Just seeing what people were saying. Oh, they're too healthy to be refugees. What does your health count when you're being targeted for murder? When you've got people out to kill you and wipe you out and wipe your entire culture off the face of the planet? Does being healthy disqualify you from being a refugee? Oh, they're too fat. What? How does that... Have you been to a trailer park in America? Some of the poorest people in America are fat. What does that have to do with anything? Oh, they've got their families with them. Oh, you know what the real problem with that was? Is that they were white. And people seem to think that there's a racist agenda here, that President Trump is somehow only helping them out because of the color of their skin. These people are in need of support. They are being targeted. Let me just quickly put an anecdote out here. And I'm going to put something on the screen so that people don't cut this out and try to chop it up and say that this is something I said. The EFF, the guys jumping around shouting, you know, hey, kill the Boer, kill the farmer. They're not a small party. In fact, they're a rather large party. So they're an opposition party to the ANC. If you had an opposition party to the Republicans who are now currently in power. So the Democrats are too big. Let's say the Libertarian Party. What if you had the Libertarian Party in America and they were going around having rallies and they were shouting, shoot the Mexicans, shoot to kill. Shoot the Mexicans, shoot to kill. And signed into law that you can take the land and property away from any Mexican landowners. Would that not be a problem? Would that not perhaps constitute some kind of hate speech? Or if they're running around shouting, shoot the Mexicans, take the Mexicans' land, and people are actually a bunch of rednecks or something going out and shooting Mexicans, would that not perhaps be cause to be worried about genocide in that country? You see, when you put it like that, I mean, it's such an absurd thing to even say, but that's what's happening in South Africa. When you put it like that, maybe some of your skepticism can be wiped away. These people are being targeted. They are being wiped out. And they have nowhere to go. You see, as a South African, we're a lost tribe of white South Africans. The European countries that the majority of us come from won't accept us back because it's been generations. We don't hold their nationality anymore. I can't go and say, hey, listen, knock, 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 hey, England, guess what, can you take me and my family back, I can't go and say, my friend can't knock, 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 hey, Holland, guess what, my ancestor left on the Mayflower in like 1620 or whatever it is, and we kind of need to come back now. No, they don't belong there anymore. They're not going to help them out. And we don't belong in the land which we were born in and we grew up in. Nobody wants us there. We're being persecuted. The government doesn't want us there. We are the scapegoat for all of their problems. It sucks. You know what? I'm deeply ashamed of South Africa. I'm deeply ashamed that I can't be proud of the country that I was born in. Because when you grow up in a place, you develop a certain attachment to a place. The environment, the breeze, the sound of the birds, the landscapes, the friends, the family. There's something that's in you. And to have to leave the place of your birth, uproot yourself and go somewhere is one of the toughest things to do. Nobody should have to do that. But the first opportunity that I got, I left. And I will never go back. That country doesn't want me there. There are many people that believe that allowing these Afrikaans refugees into America is a mistake. And I've been trying to figure out why they think it's a mistake. And the only thing I can come up with is the fact that they're white. That's the only reason. I saw people on mainstream media saying that they shouldn't be allowed in because their ancestors, were the architects of apartheid. Imagine saying that persecuted people who are being murdered and who are getting their land taken away forcefully, and there's a law that will allow the South African government to take their land away. Imagine saying that they're not allowed to have refugee status because of something their ancestors did. I mean, the guy who said that had a German surname. I'm pretty sure that we shouldn't judge you on your ancestors' behavior. I don't think that you're responsible for gassing Jewish people. You got to see behind and beyond your prejudice and beyond your bigotry and your bullshit and your racism against white people. I've seen people say all sorts of reasons they shouldn't be allowed, but I'll tell you what. You're not going to find a better group of refugees. South Africans are hardworking. South Africans are serious, and they'll get things done. Sure, you're going to get the odd frikkie who's just there for a free ride and who's going to just coast along, but for the most part, South Africans, wherever they go, they flourish because they work hard, because they don't take anything for granted. I certainly don't take anything for granted. I am so happy that my daughter gets to grow up in America. I'm so happy that my daughter's American, finally breaking that long chain of being tied to that awful, awful country. I'd like to leave you with the final thought. Everyone in South Africa is struggling at the moment. Every single person. Except for, of course, the politicians and the people that are connected to the corrupt politicians. Everybody else is suffering. Everyone's struggling to survive. It's a beautiful country, but it's on life support and only just. Everyone in South Africa truly, truly deserves a better chance. A chance to prove themselves and a chance to go somewhere else. But it's impractical. Right now, there's only one group that's being called to be slaughtered. There is only one group that's being targeted by both the government and political parties for discrimination, slaughter, taking their land away, and it's the white minority, specifically the white Afrikaans minority. Of course, all white people should be included, but the white Afrikaners, the farmers, are the most vulnerable because they live out in the rural areas and they are being targeted. They are the most vulnerable. Statistically, you can look it up. They deserve it more than anyone else because although everyone else is struggling and being murdered and brutally dealing with horrible crimes in South Africa, they're the only ones that the government truly despises and wants to get rid of. So let them have refugee status. Bring them in. They'll do a good job. Give them a piece of land. They'll turn it into a Garden of Eden. Incredibly good farmers. Their name is bloody farmer. Okay? They know what they're doing when it comes to farming. Let them farm. Just keep them away from the brandy and coke and everything will be fine. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening to my rather long-winded talk about this whole South African situation. I am pleased that some international attention has finally been thrust on this whole situation. If you want to support me, please check out my live show on Friday, the China show, and my secret show on Monday. Stay awesome.
You're whipping a gay vampire. You're a Chinese woman, you're addicted to whipping a gay vampire, and your husband left you.
Yeah. 70 men in less than 2 hours, huh?
What the?
That's cringe.
Woof. Woof?
I don't know why I want to cry.
And he says, cry if you want to. Glancing at you, a hint of pain flashed across his eyes.
Okay. What's going on there?
Why accidental Nazi?
Well, he's a Nazi love interest, you know. They look like women.
They literally all look like women.
I'll remember to keep my distance from you next time. Hold me.
Oh my gosh!
It didn't take long. There's one more thing I wanted to say. If you stuck around this far, thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you for your support. I've been very privileged to have grown such a large audience, and I'm very happy that I've been able to get the message out about South Africa in previous videos. And if you haven't seen them, put them up here so that you can go check them out. There's one thing I wanted to say is that had I not grown up in South Africa, I would not have been able to stand up against the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. there are certain things which I probably will never share with you, my audience, about how they've gone after me and how they've gone after my family. I might at some point, but they've tried some very, very terrible, underhanded things to try and silence me. And there have been people that have been constantly trying to besmirch my name, destroy my reputation, silence me through any means necessary. And if I wasn't a South African, if I hadn't grown up in South Africa, I feel I wouldn't have had the strength to stand up to all of this. And I probably would have given up a long time ago. I probably would have just stopped in order to try and prevent them from continually dogging me and my family. But because I'm a South African, they picked the wrong fight. Because they will break themselves against me. As South Africans don't back down. Stay awesome.